Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 17. This is going to be a busy one. We have quite a few things we need to go over. First, we will get rid of the old oil refineries. They serve their purpose, and are now obsolete, so they need to make way for the next generation. It's kind of fitting that to expand the new setup, we need to get rid of the old. Anyways, we will also revisit our deuterium factory, and introduce a new element into it, which will make it a whole lot more efficient overall. Then, we will finish up all the work on our smelting arrays, which will take up most of our time by the way, and in the end, we will do a bit of work on our science, since we will run out of yellow projects, and need to sort out purple ASAP. Before we get started, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, and clicking the like button will let me know that this video was worth making. If you want to help me make a living off this one day, please consider becoming a channel member, where you will get an early access to the videos as I make them, and for a one-time donation, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description. But enough talking, let's get into it. Well, it's been bothering me for a while now, so let's take care of the repair notification on top, and then we can go do bigger and better things. Okay, we just unlocked the particle colliders. At this moment in time, we can only use them to make deuterium, but we already took care of that. And fractionators are a lot better anyways, so let's put that aside for now. What we should focus on are the old refineries. As I've said, they outlived their usefulness at this point. The new setup can take over the refined oil production, and we no longer need it to make hydrogen, since we have more than enough of that coming from the harvesters on Zeus. So, with them gone, we need to make room on this side of the equatorial ring, and ensure that we can build the new kind of oil refining here. Right now, we have some stuff in the way. Since we moved the red research away a good while ago, we can definitely get rid of this graphite setup. These miners are definitely in the way of the new refineries, so how about we place them on the other side of the deposit, that way, they should be okay. We also need to move the crude oil belt over, since we will need all the belt ports on the south-facing side of the tower. That oil belt is a bit slow with its emptying, so I severed the connection on the other one, hoping to make it faster. Maybe I should have done that disconnection a bit closer to the tower though. Just for good measure, I also took advantage of the Foundation's resource node hiding functionality, so we can be extra sure that we can fit everything in. Okay, that outgoing belt needs to move over a little bit. Nice, the new refineries are active. As long as we copy-paste them properly, they shouldn't require too much work to make sure they do what we need them to do. Well, we are missing a couple facilities to complete the current plans, so I quickly picked stuff up from the towers. I got to love the fact that we can operate them from anywhere on the planet. We can get everything from the map view. Unfortunately, the refineries that couldn't be placed down had their inserters forgotten by the blueprint, so we will need to add them back in manually. I think it was more down to the fact that they were interacting with some weird belts, not really because of the missing buildings. Okay, as far as I can tell, we should be okay on everything here. I quickly dumped all the crude oil and coal into the refineries that could accept them, and moved on. I did check on the oil storage if it was going up or down though. Not the worst idea to see if we are making more or less than we are using. As I flew by the Deuteron fuel cell factory, I noticed that the deuterium was running a bit low. So that made me check on our fractionators. We have the hydrogen, no surprises there. We just lack the production capacity. Thankfully, we have a trick up our sleeves in the form of stackers. These things will change the way things are organized on belts. Basically, we can take the singular items on the belts, stack them on each other, and make 4 of them take up the same amount of space as a single unit before. If you remember anything about fractionators, you will know why this is a good idea. If we have 4 units of hydrogen pass through them at any given time, instead of just 1, that will give us a lot better chance of turning one of those hydrogen units into deuterium. For now, I just added a stacker at the input of each belt splitter on the returning side of the hydrogen loop. Should be good enough for now. As those old singular units of hydrogen get taken off by the fractionators, they will be replaced by ones that are stacked. Things will take a bit of time to settle into the new state of affairs, but it should be a big enough boost to deal with our deuterium issues. Now, I did consider adding these stackers on the lines coming out of the tower itself, but that might have been a bit much. I didn't want to overload the belt bringing back the fresh deuterium. Although, we could just place stackers on that one too. Maybe later, this will do for now. The only problem with this, is that the Mark III belts are incredibly fast, and it's kind of hard to judge which units were stacked to how high. No matter, we already increased the efficiency, and that's all that matters. Now, I didn't pay attention while placing the harvesters in the last episode, but while editing, I did notice that we only had room for one more. We already have 39 of them siphoning hydrogen and fire ice from Zeus, so I think we should go and finish the job, and place the last one. And there. We now have 40 harvesters on Zeus, meaning we cannot place any new ones. We are now at our limit. Good thing that it should be more than enough to get us to the point where we can go interstellar with our logistics, after which we will have a lot more gas giants we can give the same treatment to. Nice. New missiles. We will need to investigate them some other time though, we have better work to do. Ah yes. This place. It's full of water, but with the increased foundation factory efficiency, those lakes are now a thing of the past. A nice big empty plot of land, ripe for some fresh smelting arrays. We are still missing a couple of them, so let's knock them out as fast as we can. Same as before, we just place down a simple iron smelting blueprint, and retool it to make something else. Let's go for silicon crystals. We will need a lot of these to make some high-end stuff, including the warpers themselves, which will be instrumental for our interstellar ambitions. Let's quickly go and restock on building components. We are still missing quite a few furnaces from that setup. Well, that about does it for this one. We just check with the blueprint tool that we have the number of buildings we would expect to see, and since we do, we can move on to the next. Oh, right. Let's also make sure that we actually release the silicon needed to make the crystalline version. It seems the only thing we are missing from this one is the tower itself. We are really chewing our way through these things. I really hate it when I do this. I start building, and then leave to pick stuff up without waiting for the construction drones to come back. Since I left, they tried to return to me, so they flew off, and now we had to wait for their return once we came back. I suppose we could deal with diamonds next. We don't have those on the network yet. That should do it. Once again, let's check that we have everything we should, and if we do, we can carry on with other stuff. Well, I think we should check that we have everything we need from the furnaces. We just place one down, check the available recipes, and if we dealt with all of those, we can rest easy. This reminded me that we still have the graphite and steel ones unfinished later down the ring. And here they are. The unfortunate thing is, they are a bit hemmed in by the fusion reactors on one side, and an oil well on the other. Well, we do have 2 spaces left among the other smelting towers, so how about we move them over instead? I just set those old ones to empty out their towers, and we can just rebuild them among the others. Well, that's a lot of stuff to say the least. We might need to make a couple trips to get all the furnaces and inserters we need to finish things up completely. Yeah, we don't have nearly enough of either to finish the job, but it's not urgent, so we can just do it all in stages. It is a bit annoying how sometimes we get a red inserter, which happens when we have an unfinished set of belts. Basically, if the blueprint doesn't line up pixel perfect with the available room, it won't want to be placed down. In those cases, we just need to wait for the belts to finish. We need to do that anyways, so it's not a big deal, still a bit annoying though. Oh, what a wonderful moment. We just unlocked the warpers. We are not ready to make them yet, and we need to do some upgrades to our mecha and to our logistics bots, but simply unlocking them is a big step forward. Okay, let's see how many furnaces we have to pick up at the mall. Not nearly enough. No problem, we will just need to come back later. Since we took care of the belts beforehand, the recipe copy pasting should be a lot smoother this time around. Even if we are missing the buildings themselves, We should still be able to check if we have everything planned out correctly with the blueprint tool. And it looks like we did all right. No missing components. Well, apart from the furnaces, but the plans themselves are fine. We are getting closer, but still not quite enough. For now, I left it alone. We will deal with that a bit later. Why not take a look at research? We only have the blue and red sorted out in the new area, so let's do yellow next. For now, I decided to leave the labs in this planetary grid belt. During my pre-recording tests, I did try to move them one step closer to the pole, but the grid is way too wonky there, so I think we will stick with this one. Well, it's pretty much the same thing we had with the other two. 2 belts going in, 8 belts coming out, and have the matrix labs in between. You know what? We can just copy-paste the previous labs over, and just reset their recipes. Will be a lot faster than setting them up by hand again. We already have the diamonds present, but the only source of titanium crystals we have are not yet on the logistics network. Let's fix that real quick. At this point, these labs can be demolished. We have better ones ready to go elsewhere. And these diamond furnaces are also superfluous now. But, they are still consuming coal, so let's just feed them into a tower, and worry about them later. And let's not forget to feed the yellow cubes into the consumer labs from the nearby tower. Okay. Now the biggest bottleneck on the yellow cubes is the titanium crystals. Let's see if we can improve their throughput somehow. And it seems we could improve things if we gave the chemical lab some extra graphite. Well, on that front, we could start by upgrading the belts to Mark IIIs, and then maybe add a second row of furnaces to make more. That should improve things, but only time will tell, I suppose. The only reason why I didn't bother setting up a titanium crystal factory on the equatorial ring is because eventually we will simply ship in naturally occurring organic crystals from another star system, and I see no point in wasting time and doing too much of it if it will just get replaced later down the line. Anyways, I also noticed that the acid labs had a shortage of raw stone, so I added some extra miners on that deposit. By the way, acid is in the same boat as organic crystals. We will eventually bring it in from off-world. There are planets with acid lakes on them. Okay, we have a slight overproduction on organic crystals now. Let's go for overkill, and build a bunch of extra assemblers, so we can rest assured that we take full advantage of the increased output. Well, it will take a while for things to really kick into high gear, but we can chug along slowly for now. To speed up the emptying of these towers, I decided to give them power, and a set of drones. If we keep their delivery thresholds low, maybe they will get priority for deliveries, although I think that only applies for the importing tower, not the exporting ones. Still, worth a try. And since we were nearby, our construction drones automatically started placing furnaces on the last remaining array. Might as well see it through to the end at this point. And with that, we have every single furnace-based material we can make right now, all feeding into the logistics network. And since we now technically have access to the warpers, we could give these towers the last remaining resource slot they need, completing them for good. Might do that in the next episode. Anyways, how about we go ahead and set up the Purple Science Outpost next? This one will require processors, and something new called particle broadband. Basically internet cables. Only, they require carbon nanotubes, so those will need to be sorted too. But first, the Science Outpost. I tried to just copy-paste the previous tower over, but for some reason it didn't want to let me place it on the prime meridian. Oh well, it's pretty simple, so I don't mind doing it by hand. Okay, so these cables will require the nanotubes, the silicon crystals, and some plastic. Well, it seems we will need to deal with the plastics too, not just the nanotubes. Since we didn't have much time left, I decided to quickly take care of those real quick, and we can deal with the rest in the next episode. Now, here's the deal with the nanotubes. There are two ways to make them. Either we take graphene and titanium, and combine them in a lab, or get a special resource called spiniform stalagmite crystals. Usually, I like to use the second method, since it's a simple matter of one thing in and one thing out, but we don't have access to those yet, so let's just go with the traditional recipe for now. So, it's a simple 2-ingredient recipe. Shouldn't be too hard to deal with it. And we have carbon nanotubes on the network. Now we just need the plastics, and we can start making those broadband cables, but that will have to wait for the next episode, I'm afraid. For now, I just quickly made 100 new power poles, since we just ran out, and then I came to the conclusion that we might need to do a bit of power network upgrade as the first thing in the next video. All those extra towers are really having a big impact on our system. So, to make sure I remember that we need to do that, I quickly flew over to our fusion reactors, and only then did I stop recording. And that's pretty much it for today. I think it was another productive one. We managed to sort out the labs for the foreseeable future, and we have all the smelted materials present on the network. Not to mention that we are very close to sorting out the last resource we need to do purple research, which is the gateway to interstellar travel. If I remember correctly, we can get to the point where our mecha can make these kinds of journeys with purple science, but we might need to wait until green cubes to give the same ability to our logistics vessels. Might be remembering wrong, so don't quote me on that. Regardless, after we are set with the science, we can start doing all the remaining items, and keep on expanding the selection on the logistics network. We are still a long way off from the end of the tunnel, but there is a small glimmer of light ahead. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, and clicking the like button will also help letting me know that the video was worth making. If you would like to help me make a living off this one day, please consider becoming a channel member, where you will get an early access to the videos as I make them. And if you want to give a one-time donation, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description. Thank you for your support, and I will see you in the next one.